one question I got for them, and I don't know if you know how to answer that one, is how the heck did they do it? 71 years.
Well, my grandpa's answer is that you should all like your wife is right. She just is. That's how he answers. He goes, your wife is right. And then my grandmother's answer is you have to make it funny. So you have to be able to laugh at the situation.
Even when it's not funny.
Exactly. She's like, you just gotta make it funny. They have 8 kids, 28 grandkids, and my cousin just had their 25th great grandchild.
Wow.
So
Haggertys are all over the world, not just
yeah.
the United States. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I was really excited. So we kind of chatted up a little bit before the start of the show, and we were talking about some of the things that you're kind of passionate about, and it's really important for you to be connected to people, it sounds like, Casey.
It's a huge deal. Yeah, it's a big part of my life growing up. And as I continue to grow up, I mean, I wouldn't be anybody if it wasn't for the people that have influenced me. And I've been lucky enough to have such a big family with such a large influence on my life.
That's great. So, tell me a little bit more about like some of the things. I mean, our audience don't know really what you do. So some of the stuff that you've done and the things that you're excited about.
To work in a hospital, like in hospital settings primarily. I did med surge and the emergency room, things like that. So, but after my grandparents, they're, you know, like I mentioned, they're in their early 90s. They asked me if I would stay and help with them. So just before all this happened, like February 16th, I got back from Australia and then the whole world shut down. So I quit my job at the hospital so that I could continue to stay with my grandparents, because I knew very quickly that if I had any risk of exposure and could potentially bring that to them, that would be detrimental. So, so a lot of life-changing things right now, new kind of career setting, new school setting, and things like that, even kind of making me question if like nursing is what I want to do full-time. Bedside nursing, just because it's just such a I couldn't, like, you think about your family, you know what I mean? I think about my grandparents. If I was a bedside nurse at this time and I, without knowing, could have potentially gotten them sick from this novel virus, you know, I would never have been able, like, that would have crushed me.
Yes.
So just, you think about that and like life, like moving on with your life, like there will be another one, you know, there will be another novel virus.
Yes.
So, right. But I think that's all just the anxiety of it all.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's a real concern. I mean, I think it's a moment that we should stop and thank our first responders for all the stuff that they've done. Everybody from our healthcare providers, including nurses, physicians, to our janitors. Really, I mean, janitors are the ones that keep the hospital going. You know.
Just anyone in there, just anyone at home, anyone that has like crosses that threshold, you know, and it's scary. I mean, you just don't know. There's so many different, like, and we may not know for years. So yeah, it's different. Makes you wonder. Healthcare needs some reform.
I think we should get there sometime. How have you been able to keep sane throughout all of this, Casey?
So my big drive is I'm lucky enough that I had started therapy a few years ago, like actually really doing a couple of days a week initially, to 1 day a week, to a couple times a month. Now I kind of do little checkups. And then having started that, thankfully, I'm so glad I did it prior to this. But again, it's never too late to start therapy. So if this is what's waking you up to starting therapy, then this is what's waking you up to it. But for me personally, I think I would have had a much harder time coping with all of this had I not already had some tools and understanding my own anxieties and my own depression, which I still, like, that's a chronic thing I have to work with all the time. So understanding my own emotions and exercise, I think, plays like the hugest role for me just to keep sane. So.
Oh, yes. Oh, much so. I'm really glad you brought that up. Thank you so much for being, open about it. I myself too see a therapist, and I feel like it's the greatest thing that I have done. I've gone for many years without seeing a therapist myself, and I started it, and it was the best investment ever. I mean, as you guys know, my background is in psychiatry, and you think as a psychiatrist you're immune, You ain't immune to you ain't immune. Healthcare providers, we definitely are not immune. That's for sure.
Not at all.
Can you tell people a little bit more about therapy? So many people out there are you know, they're scared of starting therapy. They don't even know what they're gonna do. Are they gonna read? Do they read your mind or something?
No, I mean, it is scary. It took me a really long time. It took me a very long time to actually like to make an appointment and to actually go. It took me so long.
Mhm.
Like to the point now where like I look at it and I'm like, I wasted so much time like not learning more about myself and how like why do I react that way? Maybe I should pause and think about it before, just the simple little tools that you get from it and the resolve that comes with that. And just the more we know about ourselves, the better we are at predicting how we'll react in the future, and also planning our futures without having that anxiety of like, where do I start? How do I begin? And just learning how to develop tools that help me be more successful just in that like generalization. And then like, there like everyone has something. I don't feel like no one is immune to any
Oh,
of
yeah.
it,
Definitely.
you know. And
Definitely.
right now, like we all have something. I think everyone is going through a process of grief and like some form of anxiety, some form of depression, because this is completely out of our control. And if you already felt out of control and now the world is literally out of control, how are you coping with that and like having to deal with that? I can't imagine going through this without having my toolkit, and having built that up with a therapist and really doing that really is helping me remember to pause, to take time, to think about like, why am I feeling this way? Let's go back to that emotion. If I feel this way, is it true? That's a big thing for me with anxiety. If I'm feeling anxious, does that mean that it's true? Like, should I feel this anxious right now?
Yes.
And remembering to stop and look, okay, is it an absolute truth or is it a truth to me? And how am I going to be able to engage the world with how I feel? Like,
Really, really, really well put. Honestly, like that is a way, in a nutshell, how you can define therapy. Well, therapists really all their job is to kind of not really put ideas in your head. They're not there in order to make you think a certain way. In fact, all they do is they find your strength, and then they go with it. They just like what Casey was really nicely put here is they provide you with tools in order for you to be able to kind of tap into the toolbox to use those. Some of the things that Casey mentioned were, what we call cognitive behavioral therapy, which is you checking in your cognition. You don't just let it come in and the thought comes and just let it by. You got to challenge that thought. Those things are real. And I mean, and the concept of gaslighting, we talked about that before, and other things like that. All of those are real.
yeah. Like for me, so my major thing is anxiety, depression. I go back and forth between the two of those. And and the anxiety part, like I have to continuously check myself because it can be very random. And then you realize like, oh no, it could have been from an event from yesterday, a few hours ago, moments ago, years ago. For whatever reason, it just comes to the forefront of your brain.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to check, like, is it necessary information? Do I believe it? Can I let it go?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
People like the information, and we live in the information age, and I feel like everyone is just constantly bombarded with all these opinions and feelings and emotions, and it's just swarming at you. So therapy is very helpful with letting you decide what is true to you and what is an absolute truth to the world, and which one are we going between and which one are we trusting in right now.
That's very well put. I like that. And honestly, like, there are different ways to go about finding a therapist. If you're really discouraged and you're like, oh, how am I going to find a therapist? Hey, now tell us, like, we've provided this and it's time to pitch it in. But like to say, hey, you can go find your therapist in your closest area, sign up, and you'll be able to see them. You have insurance, or even if you want to pay cash, or even if you don't, some psychiatrists out there are doing it for free to help people out. So that's a nice service that we got, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a lot less scary to do by just logging in, being in the comfort of your own home, logging in and being able to do it yourself versus having to like drive to the actual appointment,
Yes.
Like this takes that away from it. Like
100%. The biggest fear of people is getting out of their house sometimes.
Yeah.
to get out of the house, have to get in the car. They have to look good enough so they can go make it to the appointment. And then the doctor is going to see them. And so many people are going to encounter them. And God knows how many people are going to judge them.
Yeah.
That brings people's anxiety.
So
Woo!
anxiety already like you already are over anxious, and now we're just
Yeah.
gonna throw you to like 100. So yeah, I think telepsych is I think this is going to be one of the bright spots of this wonderful pandemic that we're
Yes.
having.
Yes. I
This
think that's the silver lining for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
That's really exciting. You kind of brought up a few people in your life, and I'm just kind of curious to know, like, did you have siblings growing up, or
Oh
you
God.
said family? How many of you guys are there?
Well, I have 3 sisters and a little brother, and I'm the middle of all of them. So
Okay.
I have 2 older sisters, a younger sister, and 1 younger brother.
Okay, that's awesome. What are your sisters and your brothers' names, if you don't mind? And we can say
Um,
hello to you all.
Oldest is Kaitlyn. The second oldest is Kelly. I'm Casey. My younger sister is Kristian, and then my younger brother is Matthew.
That's
So.
awesome. That's really cool. And were you close to all of them?
Yeah. Kristian, Matthew, and I actually shared a room when we were very young, when he was a little baby, and then Kristian and I continued sharing a room until we went to college. So yes, we're all very close, and we're all only about a year or 2 apart, so.
Oh, that's cool. That's
Busy
good
house.
enough.
Yeah.
You guys were close, kind of growing up. That's awesome. I love that.
It was very hectic. Yes, it gets very loud. Very, very loud.
I can only imagine Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah, it's us, and then I have.
It's intense. It sounds like a lot of fun too. So are all your siblings in healthcare, or?
No, just my oldest, Kaitlyn. Kaitlyn's a nurse. She's actually assistant clinical manager of a women's surgical unit for oncology patients.
Wow.
So, mastectomies and hysterectomies, things of that nature. Yeah, unfortunately, but she's perfect for it. She's great. She's a little pip.
How about your other siblings?
Not in healthcare, no. Kelly is a hairstylist. She does a lot of event planning for weddings. And then Kristian is in the entertainment industry. Currently, he's like a production/director's assistant. She was on television. And then Matthew is a boatmate, like a fishing captain-ish.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, he gets to travel the world quite a bit, and unfortunately not right now, but yeah, he's great. He's the best. Out of all of us, I think he's got the best gig. He gets to be outside, and he's kind of his own boss in a way. He does take a lot of orders from the captain and stuff, but I mean, he gets to have the best and most fresh sushi you've ever seen in your life.
Wow. Oh, don't talk about sushi.
I know.
Sushi. Oh, man.
Sushi just doesn't deliver well. Like, you can't order
No,
it.
There's no way. There is something about the chef just bringing it to your table.
Exactly. It's
Yes.
that I do miss that. So
that's awesome. Well, what a great family. I love hearing about the variety of things that you guys have done. It's really awesome. You mentioned your sister was on TV. You kind of just passed by that.
Yeah, I do. I kind of zoomed by that one.
What did she? That's something big deal.
Yeah. I think future-wise, it's going to be a drop in the bucket for what's going to come to her. Like, she's an incredible human being, and God's blessed her with she has this amazing personality. She was on a show called Bachelor in Paradise, and so basically it's like contestants from The Bachelor,
yes,
who weren't chosen, didn't get the final rose, and just so heartbroken that they they continue to try to find love on a island, or a very nice resort in Mexico, which is where Kristian was. Wow. So Kristian was dating one of the contestants, and she was in an openly gay relationship on television. And so that was a big difference for a lot of all of us. It was kind of wild to see it on TV. Yeah.
That's really awesome that she's done that. You guys must be really proud of her.
Well, of course, but no, she is. Yeah, she's an incredible person. I'm very proud of her. She handled herself really well. That was because in those types of television shows, I don't know if you've ever watched them, but there's just so much, the drama of it all. And so,
yes, of course. I can only imagine.
Yeah, and they can really get people like, like you could potentially show like your worst parts to the whole country,
Mm-hmm.
and Kristian really handled herself like quite well.
That's
And
really awesome.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it was really good. And, she got a lot of attention for that. And coping with that was a big deal for her. She actually does therapy. She did therapy prior to that, but checked back in and, does some counseling with her friends and things like that. I don't think she's really on like a structural level, but it's more like she talks about it. Like she was just talking about it on her own Instagram, how important therapy has been for her.
Yeah, I think she was just live actually. We were before starting. I saw her. I actually follow her Instagram as well, and I saw her. She was just live with one of our therapists. We would love to have her here sometime. I think it would be a great experience. So we already have set up grandparents, and then your sister at one point. We will definitely
just keep going down the Haggerty line. You'll get
hey, we'll have people all over the world. That's awesome. And I'm really enjoying this conversation. This is a lot of fun. I think, again, before starting the show, we were, Casey and I, we were talking a little bit about some of the coping skills that we have. And I think one of the things that I've identified that Casey has that's she's really passionate about is the outdoors. And you guys can tell by that picture. Can you tell us a little bit about that picture?
So that's a photo that was taken in Yosemite. My uncle actually took it, and there's a nice sheer rock base. The cloud has been up for debate whether or not that was a UFO or not, I believe. No, it is. That is a cloud. I'm not a big believer in aliens.
Okay, all right. We'll leave it up for the audience to decide.
Yeah, you decide. But it's a cloud. But that's Yosemite. I worked as a park ranger for a little bit in my early 20s and had a great time. Love being outside. It's amazing. Doesn't pay great, but it is very fulfilling.
That's awesome.
Love being, yeah.
That's really awesome. You share this with me, this idea of feeling connected to nature.
Yes, I think there is a big part of me, and even when I worked in healthcare, so I would work in the hospital 12-hour shifts 3 days a week. The biggest things that I would do to like help me recharge my batteries, so to speak, would be to go outside on my days off. Like however I had to do it. Even if the weather was crappy, I would just like, okay, maybe I'll go for a drive, or like just at least like sit on a back patio somewhere and listen to the rain, just fresh air. I couldn't stand being in a room I can't, like, it's not good for me. I'm not one of those people that does well like that. I would not do well in an office setting at all.
Nah. Yeah. No, there is something about it. That's and a really common thing that I do with my patients is being connected to nature. Just go out and about and see something that is different than your room, the four walls that we're in. We're just so accustomed. We can, as you can tell with this Corona thing, we can survive for the most part at home, not leaving home at all, and having everything delivered to us. It's not the greatest, and we're starting to realize that we might go a little insane if we keep doing that for a while. But nature is beautiful. Nature is really important. What's your favorite place you've been in terms of mountains or area, like parks or anything like that?
My favorite park was definitely Glacier National Park. It's they call it a peace park because it actually borders the United States and Canada. Oh. So there's park rangers, and there's also the mounted Canadian police. So
oh, interesting.
It is.
I know that. Wow.
Yeah. Technically, you're supposed to have your passport when you enter that park, just so that you can go over the Canadian border with these.
Interesting. Yeah. Wow. That's.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't heard about anything closing the borders up there, so we're okay.
I think it's still. I don't know if what they're doing about the park situation. It would be such a shame if they're shutting down all the parks, because I feel like getting outside, there's plenty of space to where we can maintain a 6 foot.
Yes.
So it's much easier to do it there than it is like in an inner city.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, absolutely. Definitely need to be in nature. That's a huge part of my life. Always has been, always will be.
That's awesome. Actually,
Love it.
Casey, before our interview, I went to the park. There's a park called Hold the Crooks Park here out in Loma Linda. It was closed, unfortunately. I was really sad. I was like, but you know what? You can still go. I'm not gonna advise people to
Yeah,
go
yeah.
out.
Let's not
So
give
no
bad
advice of people going
advice.
out, but at least you can step in your backyard and have the sun.
Yeah.
Even if you're at home, try to get some sunlight. There is something
Walking
about
on
getting the
the
sun.
sidewalk. Yeah, walking on the sidewalk. Just go for a walk in your neighborhood. You know, it's
And if you
something
have
you.
a dog or something and a pet, then take him out. You got to.
Yeah.
You got to. There's something about it. A question I ask, you don't have to answer that one, but I like to ask kind of all my audiences, and if they feel comfortable talking about it, is spirituality. So,
Okay.
what is it that kind of is there anything that is higher power that you believe in? And if so, is that something that's important for you? It doesn't have to be necessarily a God.
Yes, well, for me, it is a God, and it is like for me, I believe that Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. I'm a Christian. I've been baptized, um, and it is a big like my form of meditation. Even when I've tried to stray away, because I think that a lot of young adults, when we get off to go to college or leave the house, we kind of want to test the limits of our faith and things like that, or just we go down our own path and explore other options, basically, because I was raised in a Baptist household, and I have kind of like a bit of an oppositional defiance to me. So I had to yeah, so I had to see for myself, and having since done that, yeah, definitely have come back to my core, and meditation for me now is prayer, and that's something that I do. Like I'm almost constantly praying, especially in like moments of like fear, like of true fear, not just like we have anxiety, but when I have to make a big decision, there's usually the day before having to make that decision, I have fear, like real, truly, like I can't do this. How can I possibly do this? Fear just comes over me because I'm so afraid that it's the wrong choice. And is this really meant for me? Is this what I should be doing? Is this my calling? So on and so forth. So being able to pray through that really, it offers me that peace and comfort. And it forces you to quiet yourself enough to where you listen and you can kind of feel, okay, yes, like this is the calm. This is what you need. This is where you go. And turning fear into faith, yeah, that's like a big part of.
Oh, I love that. Turning fear into faith. And I think it's let go and let God is another thing that I go by. I kind of honestly, faith has been also important for me. I'm gonna share also. I'm a Christian myself, and it's been a big part of my life. By the way, happy Easter.
Yes.
Just love
Easter is one of the good holidays.
It's one of my favorites for sure. But it's grounding, whatever it is, whatever religion it is. Even if you don't have a God, that does not mean that you're not spiritual. I think it's very important to make the distinction here that there's a difference between religion and spirituality. There are a lot of Christians that don't necessarily go to church, right?
Yes.
It's encouraged, right? Because sometimes church will be an organized thing that will help you maybe possibly do better. But for some people, it doesn't work out that way. And so be it. But don't let that be your
deterrent
for church to deter you away from being spiritual. Because
exactly.
as Casey said here, for her, connecting with a higher power is calming. It's soothing. It gets her through making decisions, which is really beautiful to hear. And the thing about that, actually, honestly, and just kind of from going on a scientific tangent, research has shown that people do pray tend, for some reason, to do better in terms of their cardiovascular disease, their hypertension, things like that. So it seems to work somehow. We don't know exactly, but it works.
Even if, like me, I'm a big, I think placebos are amazing, right? I think we should use placebos more often. I think you can tell a person, hey, such and such, this has been told, like linked to bettering blah, 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 whatever. Even if there's no proof, and even if it absolutely does nothing, you see a positive change in the person because all it takes is that person believing the outcome is true.
Yes.
Okay, so what does that tell you? That tells you that your subconscious is so incredibly powerful that it can they do it with blood pressure medications. It's an amazing thing. They can say this pill will lower your blood pressure. And
Mhm.
like they're like, yeah, that'd be great. I have high blood pressure. They take the pill, they measure the blood pressure, and the blood pressure is lower because that person believes it to be true.
That's amazing that you brought that up. Actually, it's so interestingly, I was speaking with one leading psychologist out here in California, and he does this modality called biofeedback. I don't know if a lot of people
Yeah.
are familiar with it. You probably are. I know for sure because you've been in the healthcare field. But biofeedback is amazing. It's this idea that by hooking you up to certain monitors and kind of measuring your heart rate or your blood pressure, and we work on trying to bring your anxiety down, that you literally will see your blood pressure go down. You
Yes.
literally will see your heart rate go down. So that's exactly what Casey's talking about here.
It's measurable.
Yes.
It's measurable, and it's measurable, it's real, it exists, it's there. It's not just like a feeling that you have. It's
Yeah.
something that truly, it's for sure, you know what I mean? Like it's a definite thing. Your subconscious is incredibly powerful, and what you believe in, no matter what it is, can really truly, impact your life in a positive or negative way. So you want to try to make sure that your beliefs are, positive. They're supporting you, they're making you a better person and feeling like a better person. You don't want to believe negative things and have like that negative outcome, because you're attracting that, or at least you're stressing yourself out so much,
Yes. Yes.
like I woke up every day and I'm like, God, I hope I don't get cancer,
Yes. Yes.
and that's
Definitely.
like, it's a fear. How about, okay, thank you, God, for blessing me with a nice, healthy life. You have to flip it.
I love it. I love it. Yes, that's positivity. That positive mind thinking is very important. A lot of you guys are probably familiar with this book. If you all read it, it's called A Man's Search for Meaning. This book is excellent. Casey's covering a lot of the points in this book. It's a really short read. I really recommend it. It's by this gentleman called Viktor Frankl. If I can talk to you about it in less than a minute. This book is really cool. It's about this gentleman who went out and he unfortunately was in a concentration camp during the Nazis' time. And he was separated from his wife during that time. And he was a psychiatrist, actually. And he wrote a book about his survival. And his survival was what Casey exactly mentioned, positivity. He used positivity as a way for him to keep going. He didn't know whether he was going to see his wife after the concentration camp or not, right? Because they were separate. So there was one of two things. He could have been lamenting, being in a victim role, feeling, oh man, my wife is going to be dead, my wife is going to be dead, my wife is going to be dead. But he used this idea called logos therapy, or the therapy using words, and which is turning it into positivity. And that's how he survived, and he helped so many people in concentration camp that were with him. So thank you so much for bringing that point up. You bring up a lot of ideas that are very
that's so powerful, though.
Yes, definitely. I want to change gears a little bit. I think earlier when we were talking about your sister, I couldn't help but think of this question of, when you guys were younger, how much did she practice with you? Okay. We can start it. We can start a little differently.
Okay.
When you guys were younger, at which point did Kristian flourish? Does that anymore? Yeah.
Kristian was always like, it's something that honestly, like, sibling rivalry was a very true thing, at least in my mind. Like,
all right.
I was older than her, so therefore I should have been the best at whatever we did, right? Because I'm older, I should be better at it. Go out for soccer. Kristian zooms past me. She's just faster. Go out for volleyball. I had been playing volleyball since I was 9 years old. All of a sudden, she's a freshman in high school and goes, I want to play volleyball. And she's amazing. And so there's never not been a moment where she wasn't flourishing, or, a point of she's great. She's always been like that. And when I was younger, I used to she would want to hang out with me. And I would tell her, no, you can't meet any of my friends, because I was so afraid that they would just like her more than me. It was such a stupid fear. And it's funny now, because now, like, I'm really good friends with, like, a lot of her friends that are here. She's out in LA now. And, like, I actually like better relationships with them. But, no, she's always been amazing. And she's been a great confidant of mine. Before I had therapy, I had Kristian,
That's awesome. I'm really glad to having siblings is very important, very supportive. So when did she start acting?
Well, she doesn't really act. Yeah, she does. She's more of like her goal in life would hopefully to do some form of like talk show or something like that.
Oh, okay.
She's working behind the scenes now, and she really enjoys it. But in college, she went to Stetson University, which is a private university. So she was on the rowing team there, for like crew for one semester, but then lost that scholarship. So then had to like, like she was the first one, I think, in our family out of all of us girls to pull out like student loans. Like it was a big deal for her. So she had all this huge focus on her academia, but the entire time she would call me in the middle of the night and she'd be like, so there's this improv group in Orlando that I'm really thinking about. And I'm like, you have to finish college. I was like, you cannot drop out. Like, you have to stay. And she would tell me about it all the time. And like, she finally started doing it. She ended up she was working 3 jobs and going to school at one time just to pay for these improv classes. Yeah. And Saks Fifth Avenue in Orlando, I think. But she graduated from college first. She actually got an amazing job at a software company, Perryman Lightworks Production something, and was continuing to do the improv, but not very many people knew she was doing it. She was keeping it under wraps. Like she wouldn't let you just like pop in to go see a show. Like very few friends like had that privilege of seeing her on stage. But then when she graduated, she actually invited her whole family, like all of us, to see her, and that was the first time I actually got to see her live.
Wow.
She actually did really good. Like I was like impressed. I was like,
it's my sister. I know this person.
Yeah, I was like, wow, she's so like. I do not have the courage to be on a stage like that at all. Like I don't know how she did it or pulled it off. But I mean, she did a really great job. It was a great show. And from there, she like graduated from that. So there was no further she could go in Orlando. So then she calls me again, and it's been 4 years, and she goes, hey, so I went to college. I got a job. I still really like improv, and I still really want to do this. I'm going to move to Chicago, and I'm going to join Second City. I got an offer to join Second City.
Wow.
And I was like, all right, well, I guess you did do all the things I asked you to do.
Yes.
Like,
no excuses now.
Yeah, but I still told her, I was like, you have a great job. I go, so many people graduate college and don't have a job. I go, you have a great job. And she's like, yeah, I really want to do it. Yeah. And she did. And she was on main stage for Second City. Like, I mean, she did great. Everything she does that she puts her mind to, she really can truly, like, she accomplishes it. And it's not, and a lot of people go, she's just lucky. And that's how I felt for a really long time. I go, she's just lucky. But if you look at her body of work to get to where she has gotten, like, she's worked a lot. She works a lot of, like, nitty gritty jobs that you wouldn't want to, like me, I couldn't imagine being a waitress and going to college. Like, I would lose my mind. I don't know if anyone's ever worked in like food service or not, but I mean, it's horrible. It's such a hard job.
It's as difficult as being in the hospital.
Yeah, definitely. It's just thankless, people are just, oof, it's terrible.
Yes.
But
yeah.
Yeah. So no, she's always been Kristian, just basically to like, long story short, she's always been that way. And if she can put her mind to something, she will succeed at it. And
that's awesome.
Very lucky.
Awesome.
She's also really grounded. Like, she always goes back to her Christianity as well. Like, she's considers herself very spiritual. Just saying, like, there's something to it. There is something to be said for having that grounding.
I totally agree. I think one thing that we can learn from the Haggerty family here is that it's important to stay well. It's important to find things in order to stay healthy, whatever that is for you. You don't know it, it's okay, because you can find it. Whether it be through people in your life that are supportive, or whether it be if you need therapy, then you can get therapy. You got to find, whatever is for you that gives you meaning, passion. The number one question I asked Casey when I started this interview before we got on set is that we were talking about, the first question I asked her was, well, what's your passion? And that's really tells you a lot about a person. Every single person I interview, I ask them that question, because it says so much about what drives you, what kind of keeps you going. All the stories that Casey were sharing today, it had some sort of relation to some passion for her, whether it be her brother, who was really into, going to on the shore, on the boat, and that's the thing that he loved. and her sister and her family, and I mean even her grandparents. That's passion. There is passion in that family, right? So, and I honestly want to take a moment to also say, if you don't have that in your family, that is all right. That is all right. It does not have to be your immediate family necessarily. It can be friendships that you've created. People have a lot of friends that they now call family. And if it's your own family, maybe there is a chance to work on it. Granted, I don't know your family, and your family can quote unquote be dysfunctional, and that's kind of difficult to control everybody in there. But you can start by yourself. You can start by yourself.
Definitely. I think that's a really good point, because using the word I am very lucky with my immediate family. I am very, very lucky. But there are a lot of people I know that are not as lucky. And, there, even with my, family now, the dysfunction still has occurred and does exist. You know what I mean? It's an organism, and it's the same thing we have to remember that we're human. And so we're not as put together as I look right now, or as I sound right now. This is not forever, and this is not every day, so give yourself some grace, don't live with shame, and have people in your life that are supportive, and that becomes your family. And it's an organism, and it changes, and everyone's roles change too. So
that's awesome.
It's not all across the board.
I love this. I always try to find the last word to say on the show, but I think you just had it. I don't have any more words. Thank you so much for being on the show today. We really enjoyed this, and I look forward to meeting the rest of the Haggertys.
Hey, Grandma's really, really good at Zoom. She loves
it. I love it. I can't wait. All right.
All right. Have a good night.